Hello once again. Got a bit of a different one today. Film I watched is not exactly a horror movie. It's a drama that I guess would kind of be post-apocalyptic, sort of, but not really. It's definitely a drama though. There's not like anything scary, except for like the whole concept of the movie on its own is a little bit frightening. So anyway, as usual, spoiler alert. You should watch this one before you watch this, because I will be going over the main details of the storyline and what not. Alright, so there's a couple who is vacationing in Iceland. First scene, they're on the bus, tired from the long-ass flight, which I've done myself, so I can confirm that it is a long-ass flight. They wake up in Reykjavik, check into their hotel. You know, they see the general sights over the next couple of days. They do like Geyser and Blue Lagoon and all that stuff. They go see, there's a waterfall called Seljalandsfoss, which is gorgeous. They go to the Black Sand Beach, Reynisfjara. All the touristy stuff around the general, like, capital, southern, and southern peninsula regions. One morning, they wake up and they go out to explore. I don't know what day this is. I'm gonna, if I had to guess, I'd say like day 3 or 4 out of a trip that they had planned for 5 days. They wake up and they go downstairs to the breakfast area, and maybe it was one day. I mean, that seems like a lot of stuff to do in one day, though, so that's why I'm saying it's definitely not the first day. Yeah, so they go downstairs to the breakfast, and there's nothing put out. There's like a coffee machine and stuff, but that's about it. It doesn't have any coffee in it. And Riley is the guy's name, and his girlfriend Janai. Riley's like, this is supposed to have like a continental breakfast when I booked it. I guess let's go to a cafe. And she's like, alright, whatever. So they go, and they are walking down the streets of Reykjavik, and there's no one. Like, it's not as like devastated as the opening scene from 28 Days Later, but it's along the same lines where there's no human activity whatsoever. Like, there are convenience stores that are open, there are shops that are open. They even run into like running cars. One of them is even still in drive and it's running. Like, it's really bizarre. So they're like, what is this? Is it like, what time is it? And they look, and it's like 10 in the morning. And they landed during like the 24-hour day thing, I'm pretty sure. At least that's what it seemed like. I don't know for sure. But anyway, like, it's 10 something in the morning, so people should be up and at 'em, but there's no one. Very peculiar. Was it like a holiday or some kind of event or something? And he's like, do they do like summer solstice or something here? Yeah, he doesn't know. They keep walking around or checking different stores, and there's nobody. And they start to panic a little bit. Like, what the hell is going on here? Like, if it was a pandemic, you know, they would have heard something on the news. If it's aliens, like, what the hell could it be, right? And then Janai, she's I guess a Christian or something, so her thoughts are like, what if this is like the Rapture or something and we got left? Which in its own would be a horrifying thought, obviously, especially if you're religious. But yeah, so they keep going around, and it's not good. She tries to contact her mom. He tries to contact the restaurant that they ate at last night, and nobody picks up. Eventually, they check the internet. Internet's still working. Phones are still working. The power grid is still up. And she's like, well, why are there still lights and whatnot after a couple of days that they've been in this humanless world? And he's like, explains the geothermal grid, how it like, it's all automatic and whatnot, and how it can run without humans for like a fair amount of time before it shuts down. So that's good, I guess. But where are all the people? Like, the streets as they were walking down was like the main like tourist street, where like every block there's like an iceware souvenir store, you know what I mean? And it's usually pretty packed, but here there's nobody. Son of a bitch. So they check the news, they turn on the TVs, and like the TV channels are going. All the pre-programmed stuff is running, but all the news channels have like that, you know, that little circle with the different colors, like error thing or whatever, meaning no broadcast. So that's strange. They check the internet, and the internet's running fine. They can access whatever website until they realize, wait a minute, the most recent post on like everything is from yesterday. There's no social media updates, no news, no nothing. It's all dated to the previous day. Panic sets in a little bit more, as it would. Is it the whole world? You know, what the hell is going on? So he's taken it a little bit better than her. He's a bit of the optimist, she's a bit of the pessimist in the movie. So while I wanted to get annoyed with her, I can absolutely sympathize. Like, your whole world is wiped out, your family, how are you even going to get home, right? And then she brings that up, like, how are we getting home? There's no one to fly the planes. We don't know how to fly a plane. Like, so there's that. They're basically stuck there. Tries calling her friends again, etc., etc. Whatchamacallit? Yeah, so she's bringing all these existential things, like, were we selected for something? Like, is this a test? And I guess he's not as religious, so he's kind of like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't want to tell you one thing and, you know, it be the other thing we find out later or something like that. So there's more wandering around. Eventually they're just like, okay, well, I mean, we're here. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, Riley's attitude is, we're here. Let's make the best of it. Let's go see the sights. We're in a beautiful country. Until this sorts itself out, I mean, we may as well try to do our best to enjoy it here. And she tries to go along with it for the best of her ability. Like I said, it's like I was kind of annoyed, but at the same time I get it. Like, that's not an easy realization. So yeah, they end up going grocery shopping and stuff, and they're like, this isn't gonna fit in our hotel room fridge, because they were staying in the hotel, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna upgrade. So they just go into someone's house because they're gone, and they set up base camp in someone's house. Shows them playing like Icelandic language Monopoly, like a strip version, and they're all drunk as shit, trying to have a good time, and she's actually laughing, which is nice. They're having fun. And cuts to the next morning of the hangover, and she's miserable again, and he takes her out to see that airplane wreck. They have an airplane wreck in Iceland that is kind of a tourist destination or whatever, and it's just basically a wrecked plane. But he comes out and he's like, yeah, like, against the backdrop of the sky and the ocean and the black, you know, like the lava field or whatever it's on, it's beautiful. She's like, are we looking at the same thing? And he's like, what do you mean? She's like, it's basically just some relic that's outlived its usefulness. So she's a complete nihilist at this point, not even trying to have a good time. And he's trying to say, like, listen, we gotta do what we can. She's like, you can't just change the scenery and then expect me to smile. And she has a little hissy fit and drives off and, like, basically leaves him stranded at this airplane wreck, which is literally in the middle of nowhere. I think it's like a 45-minute drive just to get from, like, the main road to this thing or something like that. I can't remember. I didn't go see it when I was there, but yeah, it's a bit out of the way. Usually there's like a shuttle service that takes you to it. Anyway, so he's stuck there essentially. Finally, I guess she warms up and comes back, and he's sleeping in the airplane. And they like make up silently and drive off to wherever. She starts getting even more depressed about, you know, she wishes she would have brought her book, and he's like, what book? And she's like, To Kill a Mockingbird. And he's like, well, I guarantee you, like, that's a pretty famous book. Like, there's probably an English copy of it in one of these bookstores. She's like, I don't want a copy, I want mine. He's like, okay, sorry. Turns out her dad got her that book or something, and she, like, as she reads it, she keeps it like a diary or something. I don't really know. But, like, as she progresses and, like, the day that she reads a page, if something happens, she'll write it on that page so she remembers. I don't know. A little bit weird of a thing, but whatever. So she said, like, yeah, and, like, the first time, like, I knew that I loved you, I put you in the book and all that. And he's like, ah, shit. Okay, fair enough. So that's fun. He decides to... even though she said change of scenery won't make her happy, he's like, okay, let's go to, like, a change of scenery, but, like, a beautiful one. So they do. They go on, like, a little excursion for a couple of days. They bring a bunch of food with them, and he takes her out to this isolated little cabin-looking thing that overlooks the ocean, and it's very pretty. And they get out, and they go into the house and they start setting things up, and they realize that it only has, like, a wood burning stove. So he goes out to go find some firewood, and they find a person. There's another individual who has not been raptured or whatever this is. And the guy, like, almost has a heart attack. He's, like, an older gentleman, and he's severely malnourished and, like, very, very dehydrated. So they give him water, they give him food, and this seems to spark a little bit of life into Janai, who was... I mean, at this point, she's so nihilistic. But finding another person, that means there's hope. That means other people are out there, right? So she kind of bonds with this guy overnight. Riley passes out at this point, and they're still talking, and they're both being nihilistic. So I guess they're bonding over their negative outlook of what's going on right now. And he's like, yeah, I mean, if it's the end of the world, I figured this is the place to be, so I drove in from the city, and I'm going to stay in my cabin until I die. And she's like, yeah, that makes sense. And they talk about religion and stuff, and they kind of... I don't know, he said something that I guess made her, like, lose a little bit even more hope than she already had. Anyway, she falls asleep. A little bit of happiness knowing that there's another person with them now. So the three of them are going to go travel and try to figure it out, live together. At least they have company, right? So the next morning, Riley wakes her up, and she's like, I'm tired, but I'm going to make you guys some tea. Just, you know, as a thank you to this guy for, like, letting us stay here and just whatever. And that's when Riley reveals, unfortunately, Nils, the gentleman that they found, did not survive the night. He was, I guess, too malnourished, too dehydrated. It was too late. And he passed away in his bed. So he says, I found a cemetery, and we'll bury him. And she's, like, broken at this point. Like, that was her last hope, her new friend. They bonded, and he's dead. So basically it's back to just those two again. And even though, like, it's very clear in the movie she loves her boyfriend, but it's just... it's like someone gave her hope and then ripped it right out of her hands, which... I get it. That's rough. So he starts burying him, and she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm burying him with his family. And she's like, do you know that's his family? And he thinks, he's quiet, I guess, thinking, actually, I don't know if that's his family. She's like, does it even matter? And he's like, well, yeah, that's what we do. And she's like, it really doesn't matter. Like, if it's... there's no point to anything. And she gets all nihilistic again. And all that jazz. I actually do have some notes here. I'm going to look at them quickly. Bear with me. Right, so... after he dies, she kind of gets, like, a brief reawakening. Not a happy, joy type awakening, but she kind of makes it her mission. Like, why aren't we helping people? And he's like, well... we will if we find them. And she's like, yeah, but we're not, like, actively looking for people. We found Nils. That's proof that there are people out there. He's like, okay, that's fair. Anyway, she goes, like, above and beyond. She's, like, going around back in Reykjavik, and she's, like, marking red tape on doors that nobody lives at, so she doesn't double check. Her plan is, I guess, basically to go house to house in the capital, and then, I don't know, when she's done that, maybe they go to the next village. Maybe they go to Vic or something, or... I don't know what her plan is. Anyway, she doesn't obviously get through everyone in the capital, but that's her plan. And he's like, this is, again, it's more nihilism. You're just marking the dead. You're not, like, checking anything, and they have a little lover's quarrel again, and he's like, they kind of separate and do their own things for a little bit. He's like building a water filtration or water catching system that he went to like whatever the Icelandic equivalent of Home Depot is and bought a bunch of plywood and stuff, and he's making like a wheel with buckets that will capture water as the moisture or rain or whatever, which is great thinking. It actually shows later in the movie that he ended up rigging up sort of a generator so that that water that's collected can be used in the taps to like briefly have water. So I guess they can store enough to like have a shower every day or something, or for their morning coffee or tea or whatever, which is excellent. I mean, as far as like a doomsday prepper guy goes, this guy knows what's going on. So all that's going on, and she's kind of just playing with horses and stuff. She's riding a horse. She like, I think, lets a bunch of them free because they're all gonna starve. And then she's kind of cheering up a little bit, and they walk past like an art store, and she's like, why don't we like make our place nicer? And he's like gung-ho. He's like, yeah, okay, you're cheerful, let's do something that you want to do to make you have a little bit of life in you again. Anyway, they make the mistake of entering a flower store, and they're all dead, and she has another little breakdown. She's like, everything here is dead. And he's like, yeah, we don't need to be here. And she's just like not listening to him, looking at all the death, flower petals on the ground, all these rotting plants and stuff, and it's just like, yeah. So once again, she kind of hits rock bottom, and she's trying in her defense, like she really is. Like they have a couple of moments where he basically says to her, like, I don't know what's going on. I'm doing everything I can to try to like make sure that we're okay. Like, he's not giving up on her and all that, and they have a little smoochy, and they go to like some hot spring, and they end up having sexy times in the hot spring, which is probably really entertaining for them. No one else is around, so they're not gonna get caught, right? So you may as well go for it. Like, go everywhere, man. By all means. And yeah, there's a couple moments like that. There's another one where he takes her to like she takes him to like a glacier, and they go climb on the glacier and sit on it, and she's laughing. She's like, we're sitting on a glacier, and it's like, okay, cool. And then he takes her, yeah, and then that's after the flower thing happens. Then he decides to take her to another place where there's like runoff from that glacier, and there's like a mini waterfall in a canyon. She's like, okay, this is really, really beautiful. And he's like, yeah, so you know that glacier we were on? This is the runoff. You know what I mean? Like, everything kind of is like a cycle, and he's, I guess, doing his best to try to cheer her up. And the water melts from the glacier, and the glacier moves, and it refreezes, and then it rains and builds up on the glacier again, blah, 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 blah. And anyway, I don't know if it's even having an effect, but that he like flat out grabs, he's like, listen, I'm trying, you know what I mean? I'm doing what I can to try to make sure that we're good. Kind of like what I said earlier, he's like, I'm not giving up on us. And she's like, okay, that's fair. They have a little smoochy and whatever. Anyway, the next day she's in the house or whatever, and he's out getting more building supplies, I guess, and she sees an email pop up on her computer, and she hesitates to click it. Is it her mom? Is it one of her friends? Is it like anything in the world? Is it even like a monthly spam email that they would have to update, obviously, to send it or something? Like, so she clicks it, and her heart sinks. It's Riley's attempt at being romantic, and he sends her a picture of like the northern lights, and he's like, this is what we have to look forward to in the winter. And despite that being like a sweet effort, the fact that she got her hopes up, I guess, was the final straw for her, and she leaves. He wakes up, and she's nowhere. And there's an envelope on the table, and it says Riley on it, and he's like calling out, and sees it and opens it, and all the pictures, fuck, I should have mentioned this. So throughout the film, he's taking pictures of her and the scenery and stuff on this old, like, I guess it's, what, an 8mm camera or something? But, yeah, he's taking all these pictures and everything, and she found a way to develop them. And they're all, like, blown up, like, I don't know, 8x11 or whatever, like a big poster size, kind of, like this size. This book, about like that, whatever. Anyway, yeah, she printed out all his pictures, and they're beautiful. So he's like really happy, and then it hits him, and he's like, "Ah, fuck, this isn't good. This sounds like a goodbye." So he's driving around, going to all these places that they went to, like their spots, I guess. They go to like the first church that they toured. She's not there. He goes to Reina Sfiora, the black sand beach with the basalt columns. She's not there. He goes to a bunch of other places, and then finally he comes to that little secluded hot spring where they have their sexy time. And he gets out and he runs to the hot spring area, and she's face down in the water. So she herself by drowning, and he's destroyed, to say the least, clearly, as he would be. And he briefly considers doing the same to himself. He goes underwater and he like lets all his air out, and there's hesitation, but his will to live is too strong, and he pops out and he breathes, and he just like carries her out of the water and holds her and has a little breakdown. And basically that's where the movie ends. Essentially, it just cuts to a scene of him in a car driving off. The credits go on the side, and all you hear is like the ambient sound from inside the vehicle, and his face like completely destroyed. And then it fades out after the credits roll, and there's like that ambient driving noise for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes straight, and it's actually pretty powerful. So yeah, that was obviously, again, not a horror movie, but it's like, I'm including it because A, I like it and I want to, and I can do whatever I want because it's my stupid channel, and B, because it's like a weird enough concept. It is essentially a post-apocalyptic concept. It's just not a like destructive post-apocalyptic movie. Everyone just disappeared except for those two and Nils, I guess. Yeah, but one thing that the movie does do very well is showcase a lot of Iceland's beauty. Honestly, it's probably my favorite place that I've ever been. So that's the whole reason I wanted to see this movie in the first place. It was like right after my trip, I discovered that this movie was filmed there. I'm like, oh, I gotta watch that because I want to relive some of these moments. And anyway, the movie luckily ended up being pretty good. Yeah, what am I gonna rate it? Completely different style of movie for anything that I've rated so far. It's not perfect, granted. I'm going to give it a 7.69. 7.69, there we go. That's what I will give it. Oh, and the pronunciation of the title of the movie, I believe, is Bokeh. Not like a bouquet of flowers, but like bokeh. It's I read what it was. I think it's a Japanese word or something, but yeah, it means in photography when there's like shine back from the sun that distorts the image, or like those little bubbles that people call orbs or something along those lines. That's bokeh. And I guess, yeah, he was taking pictures and stuff, so there you go. Anyway, yeah, that's the movie. Did I say 7.69? If I didn't, then I'm officially giving it 7.69 because I don't feel like trying to use my little reptile brain to figure it out. Yeah, it's a good watch, but it's not a fun watch. So I do recommend it, but don't expect a good time. Yeah, I guess that's it. So we'll do something a little bit more upbeat for the next one, but I just wanted to mix it up a little bit. All right, thanks guys.